Muchas gracias por esperarnos unos minutos. Muchas gracias también por su puntualidad. Sé que después de comer no es fácil, es complejo entrar, asistir a nuestro trabajo en las tardes. Siempre lo ha sido así desde que iniciamos el CLT. Quiero dar por inaugurada la...
I want to inaugurate the plenary session of this afternoon. And we are going to start. Please take your seats. We have with us the Communication Secretary of Mexico. Please, let's give him a round of applause.
Quiero comentar.
I would like to comment that CLT has been supported generously by all Latin American and Ibero-American countries. This conference was born with a big start because all the telecom companies and operators have been quite generous in supporting and participating in this constructive dialogue for a digital society. I must confess that over the last 5 years we have had the resolute support of the Mexican government. Since the second conference that we hosted, the Panamanian authorities participated actively. And then we had the invitation to host this conference twice in Cancun. We were welcomed with all of the support, and this is important because without a doubt Mexican participation and the support that the Secretary has given has allowed to the visibility from the international perspective. For that reason, I think that it's fair to recognize and thank the support that the Secretary has given to LTC, Sebastián Cabello, Paulo Bello, and the regional regulators for their support. This has allowed us to continue in this journey of dialogue between operators and telecom companies. The Secretary is going to make a presentation. He's very experienced in the Mexican policy. And from the academic point of view, I could give some details, but his professional and academic career is very large. He had a degree from Michigan University, and he is one of the outstanding authorities in our country. He has worked in the strategic areas of energy and telecom and construction in Mexico. He's a constant builder of infrastructure at all levels, from physics to digital infrastructure in this case, physical to digital infrastructure. I must highlight the role within the administration of Enrique Peña Nieto. 52 roads, 50 distributors, more than 10 relevant access to Mexico City, the interurban metro, the Railroad 3 in Monterrey, a large infrastructure of ports, which has given a good communication from the maritime point of view. Mexico, there's been a strong coordination with the IFT, and they have created one of the most successful reforms of telecom in the continent, which is the telecom reforms. We have the legal and competence basis, and he has played a role in this. But probably one of the most relevant aspects, and I'm going to conclude this introduction, is the Mexico City airport. which is significant work, and a businessman from Mexico said that this could only be compared in Latin America, Mexico, with the Panama Canal. It's not necessarily the airport only, but all the business and economic development infrastructure being developed around the airport, and this is part of his view as secretary. So after saying all of this, I'm going to give the floor to secretary, named the role of governments for the development of telecom. So Luis Esparza, you have the floor. Thank you for the introduction, the kind introduction. I'm very pleased to be here with you in this beautiful place, Varadero, Cuba. The truth is a privilege to me to share my comments with all of you. I extend greetings to the Minister of Communications of Argentina, who is here with us, the first Vice Minister of the Telecommunications Ministry of Cuba, for the kind welcome that has been extended to me. I also extend my greetings to Sebastián Cabello, the specialist of Senior Telecom, also chair of the Telecom Federal Institute, business people with us, public servants, telecom operating companies, researchers on telecom. Also to the organizing committee, we are glad to contribute to this event in the interest of Latin America and all its benefits. No country of the world can be away from this topic. Media also here. The government of Cuba, especially our appreciation from the Mexican government for the hospitality. I also would like to thank the organizing committee of the 6th Latin American Congress to participate in this important event. You have been discussing a very important topic. It's the role of the government for the development of telecom infrastructure. Today, infrastructure has been always the driving force of economic growth. More roads, more highways, more port capacity, more airport capacity, and a larger penetration of telecom services allow economies to grow fastly. Infrastructure development has a multiplying effort. It allows to expand production, productivity, competitiveness of a country by reducing costs. Economy optimizes expenses through telecom infrastructure, also impacting to the economy at large. It allows to make easier the flows of investment and providing social well-being. I would like to share with you some of the progress that we have achieved in Mexico. 5 years ago, our country started an important transformation to adjust ourselves to the digital world of this century. We Mexicans have decided to change, to bridge the digital gap, offering more digital education, reducing the disadvantages of our country in the international context. First, the vision, boldness, and of courage of our president, Enrique Peña Nieto. We are thinking of expenses and leading this change that we have waited for some decades. This transformation has been democratic. We've had the participation of the civil society, international experts, as well as legislators and Mexican political parties. In short, we completed 3 constitutional reforms which were transcendental. These are divided in 3 main pillars. I'm going to highlight only the most significant ones. The educational reform, which ensures that children and young people all over the country have equal opportunities to have a quality education. Undoubtedly, it is important to introduce the evaluation to teachers. Other reforms aid at increasing growth, strengthening productivity and competitiveness of our economy. Today we have a legislation which flexibilizes the working market to achieve within 5 years the historic creation of 3.6 million new jobs. This figure is more than we had achieved the 2 previous decades. With these financial reforms, the tax income has increased. The financial institutions are offering more loans at lower prices. 12.7 million people have access to financial loans, and new 9 banks have been created. With the energy transformation, we open to competence and international integration of public companies, the Mexican oil company and the Trust electricity company. All of this has led to private investment commitments of more than $20 million that have been committed in the interest of this important industry, the energy industry. The growth of the importance of telecom as a tool to foster the growth of our economy made that from the very beginning our president boosted the telecom reform, which was adopted in May 2013 by the Mexican Union Congress. This reform is based on 4 main pillars. It guarantees the fundamental rights, which reflects the democratic convention of our Mexican government, so that equal opportunities are guaranteed. It also strengthens the constitutional framework by creating an autonomous regulatory framework institution. We have the presence of the chair of the Telecom Institute and officials and a deputy prosecutor's office, which is very hard to understand that we have a specialized prosecutor's office for telecom. Investment and identification of investment agents has also been part of this process. We have also introduced FDI in 100% capacity. We are also fostering projects of universal access to telecom and internet, aimed at bridging the digital divide. The success of this public policy is measured by the tangible results offered to the societies. We have been able to reduce mobile costs by 43%. We have eliminated payment of long-distance calls and roaming costs. Both concepts were eliminated for citizens. We also decreased from 61 to 75% of the prices of mobile services baskets. This has represented more than 130 million pesos, around $7 billion that have been saved by Mexican families, according to estimates of the Telecoms Institute. These savings have made an impact of the telecom industry. We all think that this is not enough. In addition, the Transport and Telecom Secretariat fosters several projects to ensure access by Mexicans to technology's benefits. This is also included in the constitutional mandate, and this has allowed to bridging the digital divide by offering free internet in public schools, in basic education, and junior high school and senior high schools, in libraries, in clinics, hospitals, government offices, and some other public spaces. By the end of 2017, we have contracted connectivity by more than 100,000 public spaces in Mexico. It was also devised and implemented in 2015 the capacity building to the population at large, giving privilege to low-income families, where digital inclusion, robotics, innovation, entrepreneurship, and digital skills are taught. We have thousands and hundreds of thousands of subscribers to these courses. The national survey of the connectivity confirms the following progress. The number of subscribers of broadband moved from 27 million to 82.2 million subscribers, as well as internet users that moved from 40 million in 2012 to 71 million subscribers in 2017. The number of houses connected have increased sharply in the last years, from 7.9 million to 17.4 million households. About 60% of Mexican households are connected to this important instrument. With the shared network deployed nationally, it will give coverage to broadband and mobile services to more than 300 million Mexicans, which is 92.2% of Mexicans. In March, we reached 32.2% of these numbers, that is to say 36 million inhabitants. Outstanding that OECD has recognized this new project as a unique program worldwide, and this organization is learning because of its innovation component. This shared network, which is a telecom network, is a wholesale project with 100% private investment. It's a public action, but a private project with $14 billion, and it takes profit of the digital dividends using the 700 megahertz band. This band was made free for long-distance data transmission. The main goal is to cover in the whole country as to telecom services through 4.5G technology, which is ready to migrate to 5G, which will allow operators to have a shared infrastructure at a lower cost, and this will mean reducing costs by users. Another important relevant project of our Secretariat is the Passive Infrastructure Program, which aims at increasing the network infrastructure throughout our country, providing more coverage to our country. This allows public buildings and state-owned buildings to be at the disposal of telecom operators so that their networks are ready and at a lower cost. This will mean having access to places where access is very difficult. Now, with the poles are being installed and are at the disposal of telecom operators. We are also working on federal roads and highways to be used for optic fiber installation. And by reducing the price of services, meaning 43% of reduction, 61 to 71% reduction, this will mean an obstacle that it will be hard to overcome. And now, through this passive infrastructure program, we will cover 98% of households and 100% of the national territory. These are additional measures to reduce costs and allow operators to have more coverage at a lower price and better quality. The active participation of the Mexican government has been recognized by international agencies. I would like to highlight that this is a true success story, as has been said by OECD, which shows that technologies will help to improve lives and lead the country to a more competitive country. These achievements have allowed us to be awarded recognitions by the ITU, by the International Association of Mobile Operators, by the WITSA International Alliance, and Latin Finance Journal. Thanks to these telecom reforms, we have implemented changes that had waited for decades. This is a deep transformation since there is a new regulation. We have better competition conditions, more coverage, better quality at good prices. One of the key things has been the boost given to infrastructure to put it a step forward in the interest of the economic growth. Now I would like to share briefly with you the National Program of Infrastructure that is operational now, 2013-2018 program. It has been considered by third parties as the one most important developed by the Secretariat. The main goal is that Mexico is transformed in a global logistics platform which fosters productivity, increases competitiveness, generates job, having Mexican families more connected within Mexico and the world by land, air, or sea. This startup of the national program has allowed within these 5 years to overcome the operational saturation that we had in roads, highways, ports, and airports, which is precisely what Jorge Fernando was referring to at the beginning. This is a very important goal that our country, our government is trying to achieve. The concrete projects are summarized in the building of new 52 highways and more roads. It will be more or less the distance between Mexico and Alaska, and this is being built within our country. We are trying to double something that is fundamental for the international trade, to improve the quality of our ports. We are trying to reach the goal of building new ports, and this is one of the most important port works being done in the last 100 years. And this is also being done together with the new Mexican airport project. We are relaunching the passengers trains that have been put aside for some time. And now we are having new 3 trains in Monterrey and Guadalajara. We are modernizing 28 airports. We are providing a new infrastructure to Mexican airports, and we are building the second most important airport of the world, which is the International Mexican Airport. This is not something that is being planned, or this is something done because of the wish of a government. It's a need that our country has. We need a more solid airport infrastructure. Our present airport is saturated. It has a capacity of 32 million passengers, and at present we are receiving 44 million passengers, and we are working on this air connectivity. This is a sort of a program, as a social program itself, because the area of the airport has important problems as to economic and social development. And at present, this development will provide economic development to the region. We are giving privilege to employment, education, capacity building, targeting the citizens of this region so that they can get immediately benefits. We have 50,000 workers from the region employed at the airport project, and this will become the most important hub in the Americas, generating more than 500 jobs in the region. And this investment will benefit from the companies and infrastructure development, universities, and the wealth generated from hotels, business centers, and this will have a positive impact in the population of that region and the Mexican population at large. Thanks to this program, Mexico is having 13% accumulated growth, which is double compared to the last years. Our sector has grown 15% per year. There's been a great support by the reduction of the telecom low prices to low inflation. There has been a transparency and accountability for more than 5 years. We have implemented measures for public access, which allows citizens to have real-time access. Mexican government to participate, to attend this conference, and to show all the results derived from the telecom reforms, which has led to improve the life quality of citizens and more access to them. We are moving to a digital economy, and this will mean to reduce the barriers. This could be achieved through a better offer in telecom services by lowering prices. The prices of devices itself and land fixed connectivity. By reducing prices, we will promote universalizing telecom services. Only with access of telecoms, telecom will be able to seize these opportunities. With a specialized human capital, the possibilities of moving successfully to a digital economy, we will be able to achieve this. Cities' Internet of Things will develop transversal solutions for daily life of people and countries. Dear friends, the great capacity of calling of this conference shows that Latin America doesn't want to arrive late to the fourth digital revolution, and we are rushing through new schemes of joint collaboration through governments and local telecom industries. I am confident, and as everyone here is also confident, that with this conference we will have a basis for a roadmap for governments and industries to implement it in order to overcome challenges of the digital future. There is no government today that is not concerned about what's going to happen in the coming years with the access to all of these technologies that, without a doubt, will be complemented by the work of the men, of human beings. But, for example, everything related to crewless drivers or pilots. But today planes are flying by themselves, and probably ships could do it also. But we are almost there, and we should worry for this connection between digital revolution, the digital time, and the work of human beings as a complement to this work. In this century of digital connectivity, we need the necessary infrastructure for competing and working. So our region has to grow so that everything that is discussed here is reflected in joint efforts of exchange of thoughts in favor of this, which will be the future of our societies, of our countries, which is a time of knowledge. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Quiero invitar al escenario.
Thank you. I want to invite the hosts of this event, Mayra, the Director General of ETEXA, and the Deputy Minister of Communication. Please come up so that we can have a photo. Mauricio Agudelo from CAF, Sebastián. Sebastián is not here. I think we are all here now. This is a photo for our archives.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. For next year's Congress. I now want to invite, well, we have another keynote. I want to invite Daniel Pataki, President of Policy and Regulation of GSMA. Please, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I will again talk in English, and I have a difficult task to talk after the Secretary, who just explained a real good experience from Mexico. It was really good to hear that. I'm also very honored to be here, and very happy to be here. I always like to come. I have global responsibility, but I always like to come this part of the world, and especially Cuba, because I'm Hungarian, so we used to have ties with Cuba before. So it doesn't often happen to me that I'm in a taxi and then I'm singing a Hungarian song with a taxi driver, because his parents were studying in Hungary. So really warm welcome, I'm really happy. But I know we have run out a bit of time, so I will speed up. And we heard, I think, the Secretary explained a real good example of how a country can make digital advancement. And I was asked to share with you an experience maybe more like from a global perspective of what we think, what are the trends and what are the challenges for regulation, and maybe share with you some observations and some regulations or some recommendations. And I will be very simple because the time is I think is running. So I would say, if I would try to give you what are the main trends or the key challenges, in the world, what we see worldwide, we can say it, two main trends. One is the technological change, which is in most of the part of the world where we go, we talk about 5G in US, in Asia, in Europe. So how 5G will revolutionize everything. So everything will be digital. People talk about, artificial intelligence, robotics, immersive realities, and you name it. So this is the one of the trend which everybody has to think about how this will transform everything. The second trend, I had the chance to participate in a panel before. The second trend is all about data. So how data transforms the business. So one is a technological one and the other one is a business one. So what is the consequence for this for industry and for regulation? So for industry, the technological one means that building up infrastructure will be even more expensive. So we ran a study with BCG. Some of you might, I've seen some of you in Barcelona and hope some of you will come again next time. So we did a study with the Boston Consulting Group looking at the future costs of technology. And the study showed that by 2030, 30% of global population will live in megacities, so cities above 1 million people. And the study showed that if cost structure remains the same, to build coverage, even in the cities, so we are not talking about like Mexico, covering the whole country, even in the cities, it will, be 2 or 3 times more expensive than right now. So this is a challenge, I think, for the operators. Of course, then the challenge for governments too is how to cover that. So what is the challenge or a consequence from the second trend? What is data? So the challenge for operators, to be very honest to our members, is how you grow your business. Because data is a growing business, but we know that other parts of the value chain, internet players are capturing that value, and then network operators around the world is basically having their revenues flat. So even if the market is growing, the revenues are stable. We will get to that. Why is it important? So what is the challenge for the data for governments? We discussed before, I will come back to it. One might be a competition issue, what we discussed, and for sure there is a privacy or trust issue, which is twofold, as we discussed. One, for governments, how you can regain accountability in the system, and for the individuals, so how you can have transparency of the individuals and empowerment, what will happen with the data. So what are if I summarize, what are the challenges? So in the technology trend, the challenge for the industry is investment. So if I explain that the costs might even go up and the revenues are stable, so how you manage to have a sustainable network investment? This is our homework. The homework of the governments, or the challenge for the governments, if different countries have different geographies, but it's all about coverage. Coverage, or you can name in some other countries like digital divide. So what are the tools you are going to use to do that coverage? Some talk about, I don't have the time for this, but maybe in the conference later on, is there a role for the Universal Service Fund? Is there a role to make auctions which is less focused on the money, but more on the coverage? I think many things can be discussed and debated. On the data side, so the challenge for us as industry is how you monetize data, how you make growth. And then for the regulators is basically, whether you want to jump on this or regulate. So what are the consequences, or what are the observations we can, take from this in this 5 minutes we have? So what we think in GSMA is that, we are in the same boat. So as the secretary said, we have to work in this together. So we have the same issue, but the two sides of the coin. The sustainable investment and the ubiquitous coverage from the two sides, or the monetizing the data, or how to empower consumers and governments. So if we are in the same boat, we truly believe that we can help each other and we can work together. So if I started to count the homework, so we have our homework as an industry, but we think we can help, if I can say it with this word, to do the homework or assist with the homework or governments and regulators. So on the coverage problem, there's a lot to do, or a lot can be done by regulators and governments. One is, how you can enable a better regulatory environment which spurs investment. One story there is what you have heard today. I think we believe that, in the new world, less and less, telco operators are the new bottleneck. So maybe, people should consider deregulating. The second one, the Secretary said himself as well, how you can enable rollout, how you can make policies that, makes rollout cheaper. And the third, last but not least, is, spectrum policy, what I mentioned before. Design auctions, which is not really, how you make the most money out, but how you can, optimize the benefit for society. In data, we have a homework as operators, how we survive in this new ecosystem. So what is the future of telcos? How we are more, than dumb pipes or big pipes. But together, I think, what has been discussed here, and as I said, everywhere in the world, could there be some privacy rules around the world, which is, which enables governments to have their accountability back or empowerment, as well as providing transparency for consumers. So just a little side note, or in brackets, because at the panel we didn't have the time to discuss the GDPR, so the so-called data protection rules of Europe, which is quite recent, and I know some people are interested in this, and many people, all around the world is looking at Europe, how it's going. So I just wanted to give you shortly the GSMA view, and my personal view too. We like the GDPR, so I will talk about the upside of it, not the downside. We don't have the time for this, but maybe later on tomorrow we have a workshop as well. The upside, the positive thing is concretely what GDPR achieves, but also theoretically or as a concept. Because we think that as a concept as GDPR can be an interesting example how you can regulate in this very fast moving ecosystem. Because it is future-proof in a way, because this is principle-based regulation. So that means that you don't have concrete rules, so you don't have to, go back every year, hopefully, and revise them. This is not sector-specific, but horizontal. I think Hernan talked about that maybe some of the regulators or governments are too much in silos, and then, these issues could be looked at more horizontally. And it also looks on or focuses on the harm, what we call risk-based. And last but not least, gives accountability or puts accountability on operators, because they call it privacy by design, but the burden and the responsibility lies also on the operators, which we think in the long term is kind of a good regulatory concept, because you are not a policeman as a regulator and looking, what did you make wrong, but as an operator, you are part of the system and you're accountable and responsible for this. So last but not least, what would be, I wouldn't call them, recommendations, because maybe it's too big of a word, but what are the other observations we see in different parts of the world which could be interesting? And then I go to specific this region. One, based on all this, and it has been, I think, brought up by Carlos in the panel before, I think regulators shouldn't look at or come from legacy. So legacy should be just, forgot. And what we call proxy regulation, so I regulate what I know, should be, I know I was a regulator and I had an institution, it's difficult to move, but I think, that's one thing which people could take into consideration. And the principles, which some of them has been just said before, is try to focus on the problem, look at also the cost benefits, and as a plus, what we believe in GSMA and what we try to help with is evidence-based regulation. So when you have the problem, you just try to analyze data and come up with try to identify what is the real problem. As well as another idea, which has been discussed a bit before, is a kind of being holistic, so not in silos, as well as future-proof. So I was also asked, last but not least, to talk about what could be interesting for this region. So I think one humble suggestion is again just echoing what Carlos from Brazil was saying this morning about, take this data revolution more like an opportunity than a threat. And then take the latecomer advantage in some of the cases. So like the GDPR, if there would have been a discussion, I would have said, okay, it's good that Europe went ahead. It's a good concept. But, wait 6 months, see how it goes, and then, adapt it to the local needs and, try to avoid the problems which comes. And me, as coming from the outside, I could say, this region, we believe, has a great potential of, with the size, with the homogeneity in languages, with the education. So we think, and what we would try to support in any occasion, that there's a great possibility for harmonization. Harmonization is also, we have the European experience, which has the upside and downside, can be discussed, but we think from the business point of view, having a harmonized regulatory framework, can boost growth and jobs and so on. And last but not least, so I would encourage you, as before, to work with us. We hope that you will see us as a partner in this journey. We can offer experience around the world, and we have the best team with Sebastian. I hope he's here already in the room with the team here. So hope to see you again. And as I said, with the Cuban taxi driver experience, it's not only that this is, a place with great potential, but you can feel the positive vibe. So, I hope that you will use that for the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Continuamos con...
We now continue with the afternoon session, and it is a pleasure for me to introduce the next speaker. He's not only a good friend, but a very talented one when we talk about digital issues. I want to introduce José Manuel Mercado, main advisor for Latin America. So, José Manuel, you have the floor. Welcome. Thank you. On behalf of Huawei, we thank you for the invitation. Today, we want to show some technological solutions that we are implementing today by fixed or mobile operators, given the different difficulties that the industry is facing. To start with, I'll give you some data, the trends for the next 4 years. First of all, the global sector will close in 2022 with this figure. Regarding the mobile industry, we will see that it will be the prevailing element. In terms of total incomes, fixed broadband will increase incomes, and it will have more incomes than pay TV. In the case of Latin America, for 2022, we will close with $129 billion. As you can see, growing drivers will be the mobile and fixed broadband. They are increasing their share in the total income. Voice and messages will be decreasing. So the segment is increasing a little bit less than 1%. This means that we are facing decreasing yields in this communication sector. So we are at a crossroad. This graphic shows how we are facing maximum growth, and we will start seeing a decreasing trend of the rates. This is it's not particular to Latin America, it is worldwide. So that is why we believe that there are some strategies that we can put in place to mitigate this and try to address this negative trend. The first strategy would be the mobile broadband, not only for fixed operators but for mobile operators. Deployment of optic fiber as an access network, not only a network for transmissions. And finally, digital transformation projects, how operators can put in place initiatives to transform themselves in their operations and address digital operators or face the competition of digital operators. So let's see some examples, starting with mobile broadband. How can we achieve this? We can mobilize clients in 2 and 3Gs that are not consuming data in 4G. To do this, we have technological tools that allow the user to identify that he or she has a 4G device. Once it is identified, we want to know if they are transferring or not data in. If that would not be the case, it will be a potential customer because he has or she has a 4G device, but she's not or he is not using the 4G transfer. So we need to try these clients to migrate. Maybe they don't have the proper SIM card, but we can solve this with the big data technology. We call this tool Smart Care. This enables us to take these steps. Who is the client? What is the device the client is using? What is the data consumption? What is the income they are generating? And the capacity to offer them a plan in the adequate locality. The tool exists and it's being implemented by several operators in the region. This is big data materialized. Now we have another strategy, the cloud. As you all know, the cloud has been there for some years, particularly for IT operators, but it's still a difficult market to understand because there is a very fierce competition like Amazon and Microsoft. What we propose is for the operator to, irrespective of the means of access, it could be fixed or mobile, the operators can start providing operators cloud solutions that can be managed, and then they go on up little by little. This is a challenge for an operator to provide solutions, cloud solutions, but it is also an opportunity to take advantage of the infrastructure that has been already deployed, servers, data centers that are not being used to the full. So the business cloud is also rational. We are proposing several business models. Here we are presenting 3 different models. To the right, we have the operator providing intelligent connectivity. For example, here we have the SD-WAN solution that by using public internet, we can use a software to control the quality, connection quality, and offer clients customized broadband. This could be a first form of providing cloud services. Then we can also offer a public cloud for storing or for software solutions as a server. And a third model is when the operator is in a position to compete and become a regional operator. The third strategy is the optic fiber. For this to succeed, we need three pillars that have to be developed in parallel. The first market is the connectivity market, where, for example, in the case of Latin America, we are talking about 78 million households connected for 2020. Then we have the device market that has to evolve at the same time. Here I gave you some data about 4K TVs and how they are participating their share in the installed capacity. And then we have the content market. Why do we need these three pillars evolving at the same time? It's like building a road, which is a connectivity, and not having a car, so that we can make the best use of the road. That is why devices have to evolve at the same time as the networks and the content. You can have a road, you can have a car, but if you don't have a destination, there is no sense. So that is why content is so important. And in the case of the operator, it's a much more complex market because it is very expensive and it involves different players. Most of them have sound businesses, so it's get more complicated for the operator. Optic fiber, from our point of view, is an essential part of the business in the future. It will allow access to ultra speed. It will allow consumption of ultra definition videos, that is 4K and 8K videos. It is also the ideal mean for the cloud. And finally, the optic fiber is the ideal technological solution for 5G networks. So that is why we say that without fibers, there will be no future. In the case of Latin America, this is the technology that has grown more than cables, and there are operators that are updating their own networks and implementing solutions that will allow to accelerate migration to 100% fiber networks. In the device market in Latin America, we have an increasing trend of 4K TVs. In the next 9 years, there will be complete migration up to 70% of 4K TVs in the market. This will pave the way for the deployment of 4K videos. Ultra definition video, the 4K or 8K video, is also the perfect excuse to generate more traffic in the networks. It makes a difference in terms of supply, and there are different operators in different countries that are investing in fiber platforms, the famous IPTV, to provide these high-quality videos. I think it's already around the corner, and I think that they are going to provide 30 signals with a Chinese TV provider, so we can see football games in 4K. This means that the 4K market is here. It is already in Latin America, and it will use optic fiber. Finally, we were talking about digital transformation strategies. In this slide, what we want to share with you is a solution that links artificial intelligence and digitalization to maintain totally automated networks, so that the networks can manage themselves, can identify, foresee when the network has to be adjusted or increased. This is the Matrix. You remember the film, The Matrix? Well, we are very, very near. Networks will manage themselves, identify failures before it occurs, and it will interact with the human mind. Finally, a tool based on big data and artificial intelligence. This is how we can deploy new networks, be them fixed or mobile, foreseeing future consumptions, a number of users or clients, so that we can have an intelligent investment without unnecessary expenditures. This is a tool that we are using today based on big data and different layers of intelligence that we are offering to the market for important deployment of infrastructure. I don't know if anybody has any question. If not, I thank you for your attention.
Muchas gracias, José Manuel. Con esto pasamos rápidamente. Tenemos un...
We have a coffee break, 10-minute coffee break. So let's take this break, and then we'll be back for the closing of afternoon session, and we will make an announcement that you will all know.